Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, April 12th, 2017, show number 1131. I am your host, Shawn King. Not sitting properly. Hang on a second. Oh, jeez. I gotta get my chair all right. I don't know why I didn't fix that in pre-production. Thank you guys very much for joining me, whether you're listening in live or tuned into the archive. Thanks very much for joining the show. As always, send me emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com during the live version of the show, or if you're listening to the archive, always send me emails to Shawn@yourmaclifeshow.com. Love getting emails from you guys during the week, during the show, whenever you want to send emails. On tonight's show, as always, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. We'll talk a little bit about the Jean-Louis Gasset Monday note about the iPad turnaround. He believes the iPad, this new version that Apple has announced, will turn around the fortunes of the iPad. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if there is a turnaround for the iPad. Apple sells millions of them a quarter, and I think Apple's okay with that. They're not ecstatically happy about it. But I don't think the iPad was ever designed to be a bigger iPhone in terms of sales. I think the iPhone is settled into what it's going to be. But we'll talk to Jim about that. We'll also talk a little bit about the amazing story of United Airlines this past few days and PR in general. It boggles my mind how companies can still be stupid, can still do dumb shit like this. The solution was right there in front of them. It was easy, and yet they took the hardest possible route. And then when they apologized, they didn't even apologize until like the day after. So we'll talk to Jim about air travel in general and our experiences with that. Well, also, in our starting point for Divers segment, I taught 2 classes this past weekend and also did a photo critique for a bunch of folks. And in the classes and the photo critique, had a couple of the students asking me about what camera should they buy. What's a good camera for beginners? One lady had a 10-year-old DSLR, and so we'll talk to them about that, and I'll give you some of the same tips I gave them about what they should look for in a new camera as a beginner, what they should look for. All that and hopefully much more. Don't forget, we are giving away, thanks to our wonderful Secret Santa, on April 22nd. Is that the last? I think it's the last. No, it's not the last show. Whatever the last show in April is, the last Wednesday in April, will be drawing a name from our virtual hat, and a winner will get enough money to buy the Apple AirPods. I think it's $160 US. And you can buy AirPods if you want, or you can spend the money on something else. It's entirely up to you. What you do is you go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com. Right there at the top, you'll see contest entry form. Fill that entry form out with an email address that is valid. Don't put a fake address in there, because then I can't contact you to tell you you've won. And that sends me an email. I drop your name into our virtual hat, and then on the last show of April, we will draw a name from that virtual hat. If you're a subscriber to Your Mac Life, don't worry about it. You're already covered. Those folks who subscribe automatically get entered into any of our contests. Also, if you're a subscriber, you get an extra virtual ticket for every $2 that you subscribe. So for $2, you get 1 entry form. For $4, you get 2. For $6, you get 3, etc., etc., etc. So it's to your advantage to subscribe to Your Mac Life. It's also, frankly, to my advantage if you subscribe to Your Mac Life. I have proven time and time again that I'm the unluckiest person in the world who still manages to have a home and a job. So I said I did a class this past weekend, and on Sunday, for no apparent reason, it's a beautiful sunny day here in the Lower Mainland. For no apparent reason, I decided that I was going to ride my motorcycle at a sane and reasonable speed, that I was going to obey the speed limit the entire time. It's about a 90-minute trip from here in Chilliwack to downtown Vancouver. And just out of curiosity, I wanted to see what kind of gas mileage I could get if I just rode. I want to find out somebody do the math for me. What is 6 liters per kilometer in miles per gallon? Someone send me that to me in the IRC chat room or in the Slack chat room. By the way, you can always join our IRC chat room by going to our website at yourmaclifeshow.com. Right there below the video, you can see the link to join our IRC channel. Thanks to our friend Monty for setting that up. And also, you can go to yourmaclife.slack.com to join the Slack chat room. MacMan, no, I meant Americans' imperial measurement is miles per gallon. In Canada or everywhere else, metric system is liters per kilometer. So 6 liters per kilometer translates to how many miles per gallon is the question I'm asking. You don't buy a motorcycle for gas mileage. You get scooters for gas mileage, but for motorcycles, their gas mileage is not very good considering what they are. But anyway, my bike generally gets between 40 and 45 miles per gallon, somewhere around there. And I've been getting, whatever that number is, 6 liters per kilometer. Per 100 kilometers. 6 liters per 100 kilometers on the motorcycle. And so I'm just curious. So I drove the speed limit the entire time. I set my cruise control on the bike to what the speed limit was, and off I went. I got passed by everybody. Everybody passed me. I got passed by minivans and Buicks and semis and everybody. Wayne says 6 liters per 100 kilometers is the equivalent of 47 miles per gallon. That's what I've been getting. I've been getting about 47 miles per gallon. So I wanted to see if I could get that lower. And so I'm like, this is killing me. The speed limit here of in general 100 kilometers an hour, which is about 60 miles per hour, is tortuously slow. Especially when all the other traffic around you is blowing past you. Nobody went past me at like 1 mile an hour faster. Everyone went past me at 10 miles an hour faster. So, but I'm going to stick to it. I'm watching my gas miles per gallon go down. I got it all the way down to like 5.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which is, Wayne, you're going to be our guy here. What's 5.4 liters per 100 kilometers translated to miles per gallon? 52. So I got to 52 miles per gallon, which is pretty good. I get all the way into the city of Vancouver, and for those of you familiar, I'm down in an area called Southwest Marine Drive. And the whole ride was fun and windy, but it was just boring as hell because it was so slow. And so on Southwest Marine Drive, there's a point where you make a right-hand turn up Boundary Road. And Boundary Road is very, very steep. And I'm accelerating up Boundary Road, and there's no other traffic around me because all the traffic has passed me. Everyone that's going to pass me has already passed me. And as I'm coming up to the top of the hill, and it's about a kilometer-long hill, I can see at the top of the hill, there's a guy standing in the middle of the road. Now, Vancouver has a homeless problem, like most major North American cities. And I thought, why is the homeless guy standing in the middle of the road? Like, oh, man. So I get off the gas, I gear down, I get ready to, maneuver around this person. And as I get closer to about 50, 20, 25 yards away, the homeless guy is wearing a bright yellow safety vest. That's kind of weird. Why is the homeless a cop? Oh, come on! At the top of this hill was a cop with his radar gun pointed at me, and he's pointing off to the side of the road now. I'm like, are you shitting me? You've got to be kidding me. So I pull over, and I'm laughing at the absurdity of this. This is just utterly, utterly ridiculous and so frickin' typical of my life. So I pull over, and I point to my helmet, and the cop says, yeah, take your time. And I take the helmet off, and I take my earplugs out, and I'm laughing. And this cop looks at me like I'm a crazy person, which, I understand. And he says, sir, do you find something funny in this situation? And I said, so I'm sorry, officer, I wasn't laughing at the situation, I'm just laughing at this. And I told him the story. He looked at me and went, wow, you're the unluckiest guy in the world. I was like, I know! The one time in an 1.5 hour long trip, I stopped paying attention to the speedometer, and there was a cop there waiting for me. Unfrickin' believable. And the cop said, you know what, I'm going to give you a break. He still gave me a ticket, but he didn't give me the ticket for as much as he could have. And the way he wrote the ticket means I don't get any points on my license. So there's thank heaven for small miracles. It's like, are you kidding me? The ticket was, MacMan says, the ticket was $138. And because I paid it within, I think, a week time frame, They knocked $25 off, so it was $113. So it's still not, $113 I can't afford to spend. But God, it was just, I couldn't believe my dumbass luck. I mean, that's just the luck I have. I wrote this story up on Facebook, the FJR forum for the Facebook, and someone reminded me of the time I was out riding with 13 other FJR riders, so the guys who had my same bike. And they went off and they were being very, very aggressive. Like I wasn't happy with how aggressive they were riding. They were passing on double lines. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to try to keep up with you guys because you're not riding in a style. There's this thing about motorcycling. You ride your ride. And that wasn't my ride. So I let them go. And we're riding around the Catskill Mountains. So there's all kinds of wonderful twisty roads by the lakes up there. And I'm definitely speeding. There's no doubt about that. I'm doing probably 15, maybe 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, which was, I think, 50 in that area. So I'm doing 65, 70 miles an hour. But it's perfectly comfortable. There's no other traffic around. It's not crazy speed. And I come around this corner, and there's a cop on the side of the road. And as soon as I come around the corner, he lights me up. And I'm like, well, that's weird, because 12 other guys, because this was a one-way road. There was not a one-way road, but there was no other way the other 12 guys could have come except through here. So I pull over, and I get my license and registration out and all that kind of stuff. And the cop's writing up the ticket. And I said, officer, I'm not challenging the ticket or anything else like that. I recognize that I've never challenged a speeding ticket in my life, because every time I've gotten one, I was speeding. I'm not going to challenge a ticket when I know I broke the law. The ticket is the price I pay for knowingly breaking the law. So I've never challenged a speeding ticket. So I said to the cop, I said, officer, I'm not challenging the ticket or anything else along those lines, but did a bunch of other bikes like mine just come through here? He said, yep. There was like 12 of them? He said, yep. I said, I don't mean to be rude, but why didn't you stop them? And he said, well, they were going so fast I couldn't catch them, but I could catch you. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Because I was riding by myself, he could tag me, but he didn't tag them. Like, oh my God. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. So yeah, it wasn't worth my while to try to save gas or to get better gas mileage or anything else like that. I just... So this month, your PayPal dollars go to paying my frickin' speeding ticket. By the way, I had a problem on last week's show with the audio, and the issue is when I switch inputs, the Wirecast app I use sometimes doesn't record the audio when I switch to different screens. So my apologies for that. If you want the Rich Mogul interview in its entirety, send me an email. I've got that linked as an MP3, but it's not available on the audio or the video that's on the website or up on YouTube. My apologies for that. I screwed that up. That was all on me. My apologies. Later on the show, we're going to talk about what camera you should buy if you are a beginner. What should your next camera be? But up next, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. This is Your Mac Life. Thank you guys very much for joining me here this Wednesday evening. In our phone room now, we've got our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
Yeah.
I recognize that sound. That's the sound of the playoffs.
It's the sound of losing
in the playoffs. Well,
in the playoffs.
Now, to be clear, folks, Jim is not as good a Canadian as you might think he is. He is not cheering for any Canadian team. He actively hates some of the Canadian teams. What is your team of choice, Jim?
Well, there is only one team in hockey, and that's the Boston Bruins.
How did you become a Bruins fan living in Nova Scotia?
Because my father liked the Canadians. So I've been a Bruins fan since I was like 5 years old or younger. I remember laying on the couch watching Hockey Night in Canada.
Yeah.
And watching the Bruins play the Canadians.
Yeah.
You know? And I've been a Bruins fan my entire life. The Bruins make me cry myself to sleep most years.
Go ahead.
I watch a game and I cry. I cry. Even if the game is on 5 o'clock at night. And a matinee game, I just go to bed and cry for the rest of the day.
Wayne in the IRC chat, Wayne in the Slack chat room says, Bruins is crazy popular in Nova Scotia, Shawn, especially in Halifax. Dude, I'm from Halifax. I know. The Canadians are more popular. Or at least they were when we were kids, because the Canadians, when Jim and I were kids living in Halifax, the Canadians actually had their AAA farm team was in Halifax, the Voyageurs. So those are the games that we saw when we were kids. That's why I asked Jim how he became a Bruins fan, because most of us of that age went to the old Halifax Forum. Remember the Forum, Jim?
Oh, yeah, the Forum.
And
that
so,
was like the Boston Garden. They had big pillars up so that you couldn't actually see the game.
Right. You get the cheap seats behind the pillars. That's right. It was an awful stadium. It was a horrible, horrible place. But yeah. So that's why Jim and I have had this rivalry for years, because the biggest team that Montreal fans hate is not the Maple Leafs, it's the Bruins, and vice versa. So it's been an ongoing battle between the two of us for many years. And in fairness to Jim, his team has won the Stanley Cup many more times in the last 10, 15 years than mine has. So,
well, we won it once.
That's many enough. We ain't won it at all since '94. So,
oh God. See, now I just want to go cry.
That's right. This is the time of year for all of our American friends when all your Canadian friends are either happy or grumpy, and it's because of their teams. And eventually, in 2 months' time, we'll all be grumpy because all the Canadian teams will have been booted out of the playoffs. So.
Well, I'll be grumpy in like 4 more games.
That's right. My Canadians will be playing hockey. Will be playing golf in 4 more games. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's gotten so bad, even Sly is cheering for the Canadians. Don't say anything. You and Sly have a history. Don't you say a word.
No, all right, I'm good. I'm good.
You and Sly get ugly. If you ever want to see an ugly fight, watch Sly and Jim argue about hockey. Good God.
I think it's great that Vancouver fans can riot when they win and riot when they lose.
Stop it! I told you to stop. God damn it! Sorry, Sly. I shouldn't even have brought it up. I didn't know he was going to be a dick.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, true.
Yes, you did.
True. Fair point.
Come on.
Hey, we saw this story. You just posted it up on The Loop this afternoon. Burger King's dystopian new ad campaign. I think this goes hand in hand with the whole United thing, and we've talked about this on several occasions. How can companies be this stupid? For those of you who don't know, Burger King had an ad where at the end of it, it said, okay, Google, tell me about the Whopper. Basically trying to tunnel in to those folks who have a Google Home speaker device and have the speaker device take over and tell you about Burger King and the Whopper. How could they not know this was an awful thing to do?
Well, of course they knew. I mean, regardless of the whole thing about hijacking your Google Home device, they knew it was going to be bad, and they did it anyway. And, there's a lot of clever things that companies do with advertising. This this would just piss me off.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think it also, hopefully, it reminds people of maybe not the dangers, but this whole Internet of Things that's coming, that is here to a certain degree and is coming very fast. We got to keep an eye on this, because this is the kind of thing that can happen, is that other devices, people, companies can control the things that you think you have control. What if that thing was attached to your lights? And someone had an advertisement that said, okay, Google, or hello, Amazon Alexa, turn off all the house lights.
Yeah. And unlock the doors because we're outside.
Exactly. I refuse to have these kinds of internet-connected devices in my home. I will never have a smart TV. I don't need a smart TV. I don't need or want an Amazon Echo. I've got my iPhone if I need to do those kinds of searches. I have no interest in the Google Home or any of these other kinds of internet-connected devices because of this kind of lax security that they have them. This is just a goof by Burger King that may or may not have blown up in their face, depending on how you look at it. But it's just another thing that makes me wary of these kind of connected devices.
So the Burger King got more press today than they have in the last 10 years.
So do you believe in the whole all press is good press idea?
Well, I mean, maybe that was a good thing for them.
Well, if you do, what do you think about United?
Well, United breaks guitars, so I don't like United.
Do you think this whole United thing, do you think this is actually going to make in 6 months' time, do you think this will actually make a difference?
Look, as a traveler, I don't travel much anymore, but before, as a frequent traveler,
yep.
It would really upset me that the airlines would oversell seats.
But they do it all the time.
I know, and that's wrong. They would oversell seats, and then they would tell people, we'll give you $100 or $200
yep.
or whatever to do this. And then they would come on and say, if nobody accepts the offer, we'll just have to choose somebody to kick off the plane.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I booked. That never happened to me. Thank God. Or
Yep.
It would have been bad. It would have been really bad. But I'm sorry. I chose my date. There was a seat available. I booked my flight.
Yep.
You have a responsibility to take me where I wanted to go because I paid you. So I think that if that happens, if they overbook a flight like that, I think they should be fined like 1,000 times the cost of the ticket. Something completely outrageous that would make them stop.
The problem is, as many humorless pedants on the internet have pointed out, that when you bought that ticket, you also signed a contract with, every carrier does this, by the way. You signed a contract with them that said, basically, we can boot you off this flight if we want to. Now, having said that, you shouldn't do it.
Right. It's wrong.
It's not rocket science.
If you're being a moron on the flight,
yes,
then yeah, okay, you get booted off, you get duct taped to a seat,
yep.
and get the crap kicked out of you. That's all good.
Yep,
I'm good with that.
No problem.
I'll even join in.
I'll help.
But kick you off the flight because we overbooked the flight? Yep. No.
But remember this, as we learn more details about this as time went on, this flight wasn't overbooked. It was the fact that the United seated everybody, and then 4 other flight crews showed up who needed to get to the destination. And that's why they came on the plane and asked for people to get off the plane. Now, the problem was they were offering $800. The maximum they're allowed is $1,350. But United never got to the maximum. They never, because I've had the same situation happen when Jay and I were going to Apple Expo in Paris. We're sitting in the Atlanta airport, and they said this flight is overbooked to Paris. Can we get a volunteer for $200? And we're like, no, screw you. How about a volunteer for $400? No, screw you. How about $800? And Jay and I were both like, yep, pick us.
Yeah.
We ran to the things. Yeah, for $800, we'll definitely do it. But they should have kept going on the announcement to their legal maximum of $1,350 before they started volunteering people, or what was the United CEO said, reaccommodating them. Fuck
Yeah.
you. Fuck you. Reaccommodating? You asshole.
We're going to reaccommodate you. You're wait now? You're what?
And then after they did this, and they called the airport police to drag this poor son of a bitch off the plane, literally drag him off the plane, they had the unmitigated gall for the CEO to send out this internal email blaming the passenger for not following the instructions of the flight crew. And yes, he's right. You legally must follow the instructions of the flight crew in matters of safety.
I saw a meme today. I think it was on Failblog, and it said 4 out of 5 doctors recommend United. It had pictures of 4 doctors, and then a picture of this guy with blood on his face.
Poor guy.
I know. I don't think what United did was right at all. No. I think they were wrong. I think they should be fined. I think that they should be sued.
Yep.
And I think any airline that forcibly kicks off a passenger should receive just outrageous amounts of fines, like crazy amounts of fines.
One of the problems with all of this is the fact that air travel over the last 10, 15 years has gotten so incredibly awful, especially for those of us who are forced through various circumstances to fly economy. The fact that the airlines have been nickel and diming us to death. Do you know the cost of jet fuel has dropped by 60% since 2014? Remember the prices they increased the tickets of plane tickets in 2014, saying because of the cost of jet fuel went up? Well, the cost of jet fuel has dropped by 60%. Have ticket prices? No, they haven't. They're nickel and diming us on food, on carry-on luggage, in every possible way. Getting to the airport's a pain in the ass. Being in the airport's a pain in the ass. Flying's a pain in the ass. They are just completely and utterly treating us like shit the entire time. Maybe this will cause a consumer backlash. I doubt it, because people are generally sheeple. But it would be really nice for the consumer to stand up and go, you know what? We're not going to take this anymore. But it's not going to happen, is it?
Well, the airline and the lobbies can do basically whatever they want.
Yep.
You know, if you want to get there and you want to fly, you're going to accept these terms.
That's right.
And the terms are going to be whatever they want to set. So we can kick you off the plane. Now, if somebody came to kick me off the plane, I would fight too. I would say, no, I'm not going.
There was an awful story on CBC News that asked somebody, you said that United breaks guitars. They actually interviewed that guy, that Canadian guy who had his guitar broken at Halifax International Airport, $3,500 guitar, who had flown United. And his recommendation was, if this happens, comply. He said, stand up for your rights, but comply. Would you comply? Would you meekly get off that plane thinking to yourself, no, I'm just going to sue them later?
No, I would not. I have a valid ticket. I'm not going anywhere.
Yep. I absolutely agree. And everyone has to make their own choices and their own decisions. I have no problem being arrested. I've been arrested many times before. It's not that big a deal. But I have no problem with raising holy hell. If I'm sitting in the plane with a valid ticket that I have paid for, and you volunteer me to get off the plane, no, that's not gonna happen.
No,
not gonna
because
happen.
you need to take 4 other people.
Yep.
No, I don't care who they are. No, not gonna happen. So the problem that I have though is they're gonna walk down the aisle of the plane and say, oh, yeah, we got a homeless guy down there. He can get
That's
off.
right, exactly.
I mean, just throw him a bag of chips and a pickle, and he'll be fine for the rest of the night.
That's right. The only time it's ever happened, anything remotely like this has ever happened, and it was just so embarrassing. I was flying, and I think it was from Nashville to Atlanta. So it was a very, very small plane. And I had gotten to the, and I knew that I knew I had a tight connection for the Atlanta flight. So I got in the airport early, and I got seat 1A, which is the seat right by the door. And this is one of those little tiny planes that you can't even stand up in straight because they had no overhead luggage. It was one of those little propeller-driven things, and so I get seat 1A, which is great. It means I'm going to get off the plane first, and hopefully I'll make my connection. So I get on, I sit down, and because it's 1A, there's no 1B. I'm the only seat, so there's no one next to me either. This is going to be the best flight ever. Only going to be 45 minutes, but I'm going to enjoy it. So I sit down, I strap in, get my magazine out, I'm reading my magazine. The stewardess, this fat little troll-like thing, comes up to me and goes, "Excuse me, sir, we're going to have to ask you to move to the back of the plane." I'm like, what the hell? How do you know I'm black? You know,
Wow.
My first thought was like, that's some weird ass racism y'all got going on there.
Damn.
And I said, "I'm sorry." She said, "We're going to have to ask you to move to the back of the plane." I said, "Why?" And she got really officious with me and was basically used that line of, "I am the flight attendant. You must obey me." And I was like, "I'm not moving until you tell me why you want me to move to the back of the plane. That makes no sense to me." And eventually she says to me, and this is the embarrassing part, she says, "The pilot has decided that because of your size, you're overbalancing the left-hand side of the plane. They asked you to move to the back." I'm like, "You just said I was too fat to sit in front of the plane."
I've actually been on a flight once where they took 3 passengers off of the plane because of the weight. And when they walk down the aisle looking at people,
Yeah.
I'm like sucking in my gut, and
right.
you know, no, it's not me. It's not me. I'm not the fat one.
Yeah,
No.
it was like,
Yeah, but they did. They asked 3 people to get off because they said that they couldn't safely take off and fly.
Yep.
Because the balance of the plane was off.
And I was thinking to myself, I was thinking to myself, I don't want to be on this plane now. If it can't take off with one fat guy on it, you know.
God.
But I said to the steward, I said to the flight attendant, I said, "Okay, but I got to make a connection." She said, "Don't worry, we'll make sure you're the first off the plane." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go sit in the back." But it was kind of humiliating walking to the back of the plane with everyone going, "Yeah, there goes the fat guy," you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to getting bumped, who do you think the airline that's least likely to bump you from a flight is?
The poorest one, because nobody will fly them.
Turns out there are 3 that have about the same bump rate, the least bump rate: Delta, Hawaiian, and Virgin America, which is unfortunately going away. So for you folks who want to fly, Delta is the one to fly. Which one do you think is the most likely to bump you from a flight?
American.
No, Southwest.
Really?
Yeah, that surprised me when I read the story. That was Southwest.
I knew it wasn't going to be United, so I didn't pick United.
Yeah.
So.
But that's interesting. The other thing and I think that hopefully there are websites being built now as we speak that let folks know what your rights are and what the airline's obligations to you are. They have to pay for this, that, and the next thing, and they have to provide for you in various kinds of ways. Consumers need to know what their rights are. Yes, you do have to obey the flight crew, but in situations like this, make as big a stink as you possibly can. Videotape things that you can. You're not allowed legally to do that, but go ahead and do it anyway.
Whoa, wait. You're not allowed to videotape what?
You are not allowed to photograph or videotape when you're inside of a plane, according to the regulations of the airlines and the FAA. People do it, but it's enforceable. They can stop you if they want.
Okay, I'd be videotaping everything.
Yep.
I have a ticket I paid for. I'm not getting off of this plane.
Yep.
If you want to bring some people in to drag me off, okay. If you can get, I mean, I'm a lot bigger than that little Chinese guy that they drug off. If you think you can do that to me,
Yep.
That's great. You'll be bumping chairs all the way down with my belly.
That's right. It will not be easy. Bring a lot of guys because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Speaking of guys,
I wouldn't fight.
Yeah.
but I would make a steak for sure.
That's right. Oh, absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
as soon as you start fighting with them, then, you know, they'll press charges and they'll do all that. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I would certainly make a steak. Oh my God, I would make a steak.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, like literally, I would fart all the way down the aisle.
And you know, some folks are using the excuse of well, you know, so and so paid more. That's why they picked this doctor. Because
I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Don't care. I'm on the plane. If I'm in the terminal and you're doing this, that's different. But if I'm sitting in the plane, I'm strapped in, I'm mentally getting ready to be hurled through the air in this giant tube of death, then yeah, you're not getting me off that plane.
The amount of money that you pay is not relevant at all, because the airline accepted the amount of money that you pay.
Yes, correct.
So as long as they accepted it, and you gave me this little piece of paper that says this is your boarding pass and you have this seat, hey, I'm there.
Yep, I agree.
I'm there. I'm on that plane. I have never accepted one of these things, you know, we'll give you this much, or we'll give you a free flight. I've never accepted it because I'm either on my way somewhere that I need to be, or I'm on my way home, and I just want to get home.
Well, anytime that I've for Macworld Expo or Apple Paris Expo, those kinds of things, we always went like a day or a day and a half early. So I would always go up to the front desk or the gate and say, hey, if you need someone to bump, I volunteered to do it ahead of time. And I've gotten some great deals, because a lot of times they are overbooked, and they'll go, oh, thank God, you know, here's $400 kind of thing on off your next flight. So if I have the time, I will volunteer. It makes their life easier, and, you know, puts $400 of plane ticket money in my pocket.
I try not to make anybody's life easy. You of all people should know that.
That's true. Let's move on.
Just out of principle, I try not to do that.
Let's move on. It was announced late last week, that everyone's favorite Uncle Walt Mossberg, formerly of the Wall Street Journal and Recode, now in Vox, The Verge, has decided to retire at the end of, I believe, June. Do you know Walt at all, personally or just professionally?
Just professionally. I mean, you know, Walt was or is a well-respected person.
Yep.
And, you know, there's no, you can agree with what Walt says or disagree with what Walt says, but he's a very powerful person in the media. And that's, I mean, good for him.
Is Walt powerful because of longevity, or powerful because of what he says?
Oh, both.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, again, agree or disagree with what Walt says, and I've disagreed with much of what Walt has said over the years on different products, different reviews, but he is a staple of the tech media. And, you know, people disagree with what I say, and I welcome that. You know, I think that's great. I have my opinion on something, and you can disagree with it. And, you know, Walt has his opinion, and people disagree with him too. And, you know, he's been around for a long, long time.
Yeah, for better or worse, he has been. He is the grand old man of tech writing.
Well,
I don't think there was no such thing as tech writing before he showed up.
At one point, I thought Walt was Jesus, but, you know.
And he's
been around that long.
Yeah, he has been around a very, very long time. I think part of the problem that a lot of people, maybe myself included, have with Walt is that he was around for too long. He got too chummy. He got too friendly with a lot of companies. Now, I don't think Walt ever held back on a review or a piece or a comment because of his friendliness with any particular member of the tech community, Steve Jobs and otherwise. But it did color the way I read his stuff when I knew that he was, again, not friends with Steve Jobs, but very chummy with Steve Jobs. I sort of took what he said with regards to Apple with a grain of salt, and then other things with a grain of salt. Would you agree with me on that you can get too close to your subjects?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can get close, but there are advantages and disadvantages to being close. You know, people would say that, I'm close with Apple.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people at Apple that I'm close with. But I can say from deep in my heart that does not affect what I write or what I say to them.
Yep.
I think you only need to look at my Apple Music post to say I am not afraid to say I think this is wrong. I think what they're doing, the messaging that they give is wrong.
Yeah.
I say it over and over again, but I truly believe that it's wrong. I'm not trying to hit Apple, needlessly, but I'm not going to say what they're doing is good when I don't believe it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the readers of the Loop expect from me when I write about music. And so when I do say something good about iPad or iPhone or Mac or whatever, that comes off as truthful as when I say something bad.
Yeah.
Because it is. That's the way that it has to be. I can be friendly with them, with Apple. I can be adversarial with them. It all comes down to how I believe and how Walt believes that what they're doing is good or bad.
I think the reverse is also true too. That if you don't have the connections with Apple, you will make comments that show a lack of understanding of Apple. Folks like you who have connections inside of Apple can get information that maybe never will become public, but will allow you to have a better, more, shall we say, nuanced view of things that are going on. I don't think there's any doubt at all that Walt Mossberg knew many, many things before many of the rest of us did. You could see that by some of the reviews he did that got posted moments after they were announced. Same with you. The same Jim is the same way. He has connections to Apple, so he gets these things. And he gets to talk to folks at Apple at a level the rest of us don't get to. So I'm not saying it's a real problem with Walt. It certainly is something I read into his writing. The other problem is I don't think Walt really fit in with the video age. He doesn't look good on TV. I don't mean he's ugly. I mean he doesn't speak well. He writes well, but he's gotten better over the years. But his one-on-one videos and those kinds of things, he looks very stiff in front of the camera. He doesn't fit in well with the crowd that is seeming to like these kinds of videos.
Well, I think part of the problem is that not everybody can be as gorgeous as I am.
I saw that coming. As soon as I started talking about looking good on video, I just I know where Jim's going to go.
Yep. It's true. It's true. I mean, you can laugh, you can say all you want, but I mean,
facts are facts.
The fact is, I'm a very good-looking person, and I may be losing in the playoffs right now, but I'm still good-looking.
Regardless of that, you are still a good.
Regardless, I mean,
good-looking man. All right.
I'm very good-looking. We can argue this all day, but you'll still be wrong.
Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done now.
Move on. The iPad turnaround is coming, says Jean-Louis Gasset in his Monday note this past Monday. Do you agree with Jean-Louis?
I don't know. Well, I mean, it's coming when?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this many times on this show. And I do believe that, so at some point, more people will buy iPads.
Yeah.
I do believe that. But I think it's going to be more than just having a cheaper iPad or an iPad that is more pro, or, it's going to be a combination of things that make that happen. So is it coming? Sure. Yeah. Is it coming next week? No. I think that you have to look at a lot of different things when you make a statement like that.
I think,
he's a smart guy.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Make no mistake about that.
I think the problem,
he's not as good looking as I am, but he's a smart guy.
I think the problem is that the iPad turnaround is coming. Well, what does that turnaround entail? Is a lot of folks seem to have this expectation that the iPad needs to sell in iPhone-like numbers. I don't think even Apple expects that. I think the millions that Apple is selling now is pretty good. If those millions uptick over the next year or so, that will make Apple happy. But it's never going to be, nor was it ever designed to be, a device that has iPhone sales numbers. I think the sales of the iPad are really, really good for Apple, and it'd like to be better. But I don't think that turnaround, because because he doesn't define what he says is a turnaround. I think that's where the problem comes. We can't say yes or no.
A turnaround would indicate that there's failure, and if iPhone sales drop to 10 million a quarter, that's a failure. But when iPad is relatively steady. It has dropped, but relatively steady.
Hang on. You can't say relatively steady when the iPhone has dropped. iPad's sales have dropped 50% in the last 3 years, from 11 million per quarter in quarter one in 2013 to 5.5 million in this past quarter. That's a significant drop.
I didn't realize they dropped that. Well, they're fucked. Forget everything I just said. Yeah, they're fucked.
Exactly. Oh, God.
Oh, well.
But I think that's why
you should call me non-playoff time, because I'm just so upset right now.
Exactly. But I think that's the issue. I think that people expect the iPad is going to get back to those halcyon days when they're selling 11 million a quarter. They're not. I don't think. I think the iPad has settled into where it's going to be, between 5 and 8 million sales a quarter, and that's going to be good enough, I think, for Apple.
Well, for now.
Yeah. Arcsign says, Shawn, asked Jim if he thinks the lower price is important to iPads establishing an upgrade cycle.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's not the fact that it's the lower price, just the lower price. It's the fact that they have a powerful iPad at a lower price.
Yes.
They're not selling a piece of crap.
Yeah.
At a lower price, where people have to say, oh, God, do I really have to get this? It's not that. It is a powerful iPad. I have one.
Yeah.
It's a great iPad. But for people, there are a lot of price-conscious people out there, and there are a lot of people below 20 and over 50 that this speaks to.
Yeah.
And, pick your own age group in there. Maybe it's under 15 and over 55. I don't know, whatever. But that's my gap. And there are a lot of people in between that will upgrade because it's only $329.
Yeah.
So yes, I do believe that is a big thing.
Yeah, I think Apple is looking forward to this Christmas a lot of iPads under Christmas trees. But again, I don't think they're going to hit the 11 million mark, their high water mark of a few years ago. I think 8 million is probably the highest they're going to see in a holiday quarter. I think that's fine. I think that's...
Imagine if it was 8 million at $329. Do some math for me there, because I was told there'd be no math on the show. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's buttloads of money, and it's going to be more than that, because they're going to sell higher price ones. The ASP, or the average selling price of the iPad, is significantly higher than that price point.
Right, and but the ASP may actually come down a little bit because of this.
Sure, yeah.
So, but that's a big company.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's right. All by itself. Yeah.
I mean, if Apple wanted to shuttle iPad business and give me a loan and I'll take it over, I'm good with that. Exactly. I'm good. Good.
Let's switch gears here. Last week it was announced, or not announced, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I never understand why the induction ceremony of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is in Cleveland, the ceremonies are in Brooklyn. I don't get that. But Pearl
I don't get that.
Pearl Jam, Journey, Joan Baez, and Tupac Shakur were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You got a problem with any of those four?
No.
Journey for me. We've had this argument before. I don't.
No, come on. I mean, come on.
No,
come on.
no.
Be a man.
No.
Be a man. Stand up.
No.
Stand up. Come on.
They're not a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame level band.
They are. They are.
No.
And I saw a post on Apple Music where Pearl Jam was rehearsing with Geddy Lee.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. But I mean, Pearl Jam, I can definitely see. Joan Baez, absolutely. I'm surprised that Joan Baez wasn't in there before. And Tupac Shakur, absolutely, I could believe. But Journey, I think because Journey is all Journey is to me is "Don't Stop Believin'." That everyone sings is annoying as hell. But I don't see any bands who were influenced by Journey. You can see Joan Baez's influences, Tupac Shakur's influences, Pearl Jam's influences.
Well,
but I don't. Who did Journey influence? Air Supply?
Tupac completely influenced Metallica. I mean, that's obvious.
What?
And Megadeth. I mean,
oh God.
No. I think Journey's a good one. I mean, there are many years when the inductees come out, and I think, what the hell are they thinking? But Journey, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm good with that.
Electric Light Orchestra, and Yes were also part of the 2017 class inducted at the Barclays Center. I think those two are on the. I think those are higher on my list than Journey ever would be.
Well, I mean, you have to look at what Journey did during their time, and I'm good with them being in. ELO, same thing. Yeah. I mean, they had some great stuff. Good with them. And who was the other one?
Electric Light Orchestra and Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Yes. I was a Yes fan, but not a huge Yes fan. Because they did a lot of, really funky stuff that at the time I really wasn't into. Over the years, as I've grown older and more curmudgeon, I've grown to respect what they did. Yep. So, I'm good with that too.
Yeah, same here. I was never a giant Yes fan or Electric or ELO fan, but I recognize their influence on music and completely accept. I have no problem with their induction, but like I said, I don't see Journey's influence in music.
Well,
I Don't Stop Believing. That was it.
Yeah, well, that's good enough. And what about Oh Sherry with Steve Ferris?
Oh, she's another annoying song.
Oh Sherry,
please stop. Just love. Awful. It's just awful music. It's karaoke music before karaoke.
Yeah,
it's just crap.
But no, it wasn't all crap. I mean, they had some great stuff. They did. I mean, you turn on the classic rock station, you're going to hear Journey. You go to Apple Music and you turn on classic rock, you're going to hear Journey. I mean, they did have a place in music. And I think that they deserve it.
Do you remember the first time you turned on a classic rock station and heard music from your high school days and went, "That's not classic rock"?
Well, when I turned on classic rock, it was actually today's rock.
I never listened to classic rock until I moved to Nashville. I'm driving down the road one time, trying to find a non-country station, and the classic rock station comes on. I was like, "Oh, classic rock!" And I'm thinking old Rolling Stones and that kind of stuff. And they said, "Next up, The Clash." I'm like, "Screw you! The Clash is not classic rock. That's the stuff I listen to." It's classic now, but back then it wasn't classic rock. That's definitely a sign you're getting older when your favorite music shows up on classic rock stations.
Well, you know what's funny? Some of my favorite music shows up on Apple Music. It shows up on the metal channel. Yep. It shows up on hard rock channel. It shows up on classic rock, and it shows up on rock. And this is the same song. And you know what? It's absolutely great on each one of those channels.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what I'm thinking about here is AC/DC.
Yeah.
It can show up on every single one of the channels and fit right in,
And fit
be
right in.
good.
Yep.
You know, and that's good for them.
I agree.
You know, to be able to do something like that.
Folks, we've been talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. He's here each and every week. Thanks very much, Jim. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk later. See ya.
Bye.
I was gonna apologize for the swearing, and then I realized if you don't realize that Jim and I swear frequently, then you shouldn't be listening to the show. And thanks very much to Wayne. I think you're right, Wayne. Turning off, going into airport mode, and turning on just the Wi-Fi. I didn't hear any GSM noises. So Wayne, thanks very much for pointing me in that direction. I have been a giant fan of the New York Times since I was a kid. It was a big thrill when I went to the library as a kid. I'm talking 10, 11, 12 years old, and I'd go into the newspaper section. I'd get the New York Times because to me that represented America and American news. As I've gotten older, the New York Times just pisses me off left, right, and center. And here's a perfect example of the New York Times pissing me off. There was this story that fingerprint sensor on your phone is not as safe as you think. And I thought, excuse me? Well, it turns out that these scientists have found that the fingerprint sensor, New York University, Michigan State University, suggests that smartphones can easily be fooled by fake fingerprints digitally composed of many common features found in human prints. I thought, holy shit, that's terrifying. Until I kept reading. It said, in computer simulations, the researchers were able to develop a set of artificial master prints. The next sentence is the one that pissed me off. The researchers did not test their approach with real phones. Did not test their approach with real phones. Piss off, New York Times. Your first question to these guys is, does this work on Android phones? Does this work on iPhones? If the researchers say, we don't know, you say to the researchers, here's my number, call me back when you find out. Because otherwise, you've just scared the shit out of people for no good reason. God, New York Times, that's just irresponsible journalism to have that as your headline story, but bury the lead of whether it works or not on the most popular devices. That's just offensive that they would do it this way. Mosquito says, are there still people who complain about language on the show, Shawn? Yeah, I get them every now and then. Every now and then someone does. If you, I hope you don't, but if you happen to notice or know someone who is still running Windows Vista, tell them to stop. Windows Vista is officially dead as of today. Microsoft is discontinuing support as of today. Back in the day, I think Vista is 10 years ago, I was hired by David Pogue to be the tech editor on his Windows Vista missing manual. And I needed the money. So I said yes. So some of you have seen me on Twitter every now and then slamming Mr. Pogue. And here's one of the reasons why. I was the tech editor on the Windows Vista missing manual. If you can still find a copy, you can see my name listed in the credits. You can see that Mr. Pogue has thanked me profusely for all the assistance I gave him in tech editing Windows Vista missing manual. Hours and hours and hours. Literally sitting on a desk with a Mac laptop and a Windows laptop and the manuscript open, and every single word that was written had to be tech edited. In other words, and David wrote the book off a beta version of Vista. And Macman says he hired a Mac guy to tech edit a Windows book. Actually, it made sense because I was unfamiliar with Windows. I checked everything. I didn't assume anything. And I found hundreds of mistakes from his previous editors, copy editors. So if something was capitalized in the book, I checked Windows Vista, the actual shipping version, to make sure that it was still capitalized. If a procedure that David described, I went through that procedure in the full version of Windows to make sure it was the same, that they hadn't changed anything from the beta to the shipping version. And they had made some changes. So for that job, David paid me $10 an hour. David Pogue is a cheap son of a bitch. Simple as that. And he bitched about the number of hours I was putting in. If you've ever seen the Windows Vista missing manual or any one of these big missing manuals, it's probably 500 pages. And he bitched at me because I was putting in too many hours. It was awful. The worst part about it was being a Mac person and sitting there with a Macintosh and going through the procedures of things on a Windows Vista PC. I'm looking at it and going, why are you doing it this way, Microsoft? Why are you stealing this from Apple and doing it badly? That was the part that pissed me off the most, was that you could see, how to install a new printer. And I'm looking at it and going, are you kidding me? You stole the procedure from Apple and then made it more complicated. Made it harder to do. I couldn't believe that they had done this. It was awful. It was just probably 2 weeks just of hell of going through every single thing in Windows Vista and seeing how A, just generally poorly it was done, but B, how stupidly they had stolen from Apple and made pointless changes. They didn't have to. Maybe they made them changes because they were afraid of getting sued again, but I doubt it. I think it was just stupid. But yeah, Mosquito, oh my God, $10 an hour for tech editing. Yep, that's what he paid me. And then that's what he paid me for all the stuff that I did. You guys may remember back when I was living in Connecticut, I did video editing for him. I shot the videos for the New York Times stuff. I edited the videos. I compressed the videos. I uploaded the videos, all for $10 an hour. And he wouldn't put my name on the credits of any of those videos until I bitched about it. And then he fired me when he found a college kid to do it for $7 an hour. That's David Pogue. I got lots of stories about Pogue. Basically, he's a jag-off. This is a disturbing story. I had not realized that there were people, and it turns out it's a 41% of 28,000 respondents are disturbed people. Chocolate Easter bunnies, either whole or hollow. How do you eat your chocolate Easter bunny? Do you start with the ears or the feet or the tail? 41% of you are going to be wrong. There's only one place to start eating your chocolate Easter bunny, and that's from the ears. You can't start from the feet or the tail. I can't believe 41% of people would actually start eating their chocolate Easter bunny from the ass end. That's just bizarre to me. That makes no sense. Anyway. We always started eating the bunny from the ears. Point for Dogma segment for today. I said this past weekend I did a couple of my classes and a photo critique down at the lovely pub, the Mahoney's Pub here over in Vancouver, right down the waterfront in the Vancouver Convention Center is an Irish pub called Mahoney's. Great views. If you get a chance, go on down there and have a beer and lunch. And a couple of the students in the class had very, very old DSLRs. One lady had a 10-year-old Nikon D50, my very first camera. And like a lot of people, she wanted to know what camera should she buy. She knew that her camera was an old camera. She knew that it was old technology, slow, all those kinds of things. So she asked what camera should she buy? I said the first thing that you shouldn't buy a new camera until you know enough about photography that your camera can't capture what you can visualize. There's no point in buying a new camera with new features and new settings and new capabilities if you're not going to use those features and settings and capabilities. Until you learn how to drive, there's no point in getting a Camaro. Until you know how to drive well, there's no point in getting a Ferrari. So, first of all, make sure you know a lot about the camera you already have. That's the first thing I said to her. Make sure you understand aperture and you understand how to creatively create images. You understand all those things about photography, the general tips and techniques that we did in the class. I said, but the good news is there's really no such thing as a bad camera nowadays. Any camera you buy within the last year, and that doesn't matter whether it's from Canon or Nikon or Olympus or Pentax or anybody. As a beginner, they're all going to be good cameras. They're all going to be better cameras than you are a photographer. I guarantee it. So don't worry so much about the brand name of the camera because, like I tell a lot of folks, this camera won't be your last camera. If you get good and excited about photography, you're going to get another camera at some point in the future. And if you don't, then you won't get another camera, so it doesn't matter what brand it is anyway. The only thing I would say when it comes to brand is if you do have if your friends, multiple friends have a brand preference and they have lenses you can borrow, then get that one. So if you've got a bunch of Canon friends, buy a Canon because maybe you can borrow their lenses, or Nikon friends or whatever it might be. But otherwise, it's not going to matter. Whether it's a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, anyone from any one of those brands, the major brands, I'm not buying an HP DSLR, but any of the major brands is going to be a very, very good camera for you. Basically, find out how much money you have to spend and find the camera that matches that. A lot of times, people get too caught up in a bunch of numbers and the technical aspects of a particular camera that aren't going to matter to them. The only number you should matter is how much money do I have to spend? Find a camera that fits that. And that's going to be easy. I swear that's going to be easy to do depending on how much work you want to do. If you've got $1,000, you're going to get a great beginning camera with at least 2 lenses and a bag and a bunch of other goodies because every manufacturer will throw that stuff in. If you got $500, you can still get a pretty doggone good camera. Now, one of the ladies asked me about buying used cameras. And I kind of warned her off of that, if only because, yes, used will be cheaper. But as a beginner, you may not know enough to protect yourself buying a used camera. I'd say wait and buy used until your next camera or the one after that. Don't worry about megapixels. Megapixels do not matter. Any camera you buy from today or even a year ago, 2 years ago, is going to have plenty of megapixels for the average user. You're not printing stuff off to be billboard sized. You're going to be using a kit lens for the most part. There's no need to worry about megapixels. Everything's going to have 12 and above, if not 16 and above. So do not worry about megapixels. When you buy a new camera, you're going to get generally the body of the camera and then what's called a kit lens. And kit lens is generally a fairly inexpensive lens, not that they throw in, but you need a lens to go with your camera. If you've got $1,000 or less to spend, you can generally find a deal where you'll get 2 lenses, usually an 18 to 55 millimeter lens, which is a perfectly average lens. It's not bad, it's not great. And probably a bit of a zoom lens, depending on the manufacturer. And again, that's going to be a perfectly average lens. You're going to do good things with that lens. Don't worry about that too much. But make sure $1,000 and under, make sure you get 2 lenses on your deal, whether you're buying from Best Buy or Amazon or your local camera store. For $1,000 and under, you're going to get 2 lenses. $500 and under, you'll get 1 lens, usually the 1855. The important thing is to feel the camera. I've told you guys before and my classes that the Olympus OMD M1 is a great camera spec-wise, but physically it's too small for me. If I had just looked at that online and thought, oh, that's a great camera, it's got the numbers that I want, I'll buy that and have it shipped to me, and now I'd be having this little teeny tiny camera. That wouldn't be a good thing. So you've got to physically feel the camera. Go to the store and see how it feels. And I chew people out about this all the time. Don't go to a store and play around with their camera and then go home and buy it on Amazon. Don't do that. At least give the store the opportunity to match the online price or get close to the online price. You go into a physical store, you use their inventory, their lights, their staff, their parking, and then go home and buy it on Amazon, you're screwing that store. Don't do that. If you're going to go into a store, at least give the store the chance to match a price or get close to a price online. Monty says the 1855 Nikon lens is still a respectable lens. I think kit lenses get an undeserved bad rap from too many people. I absolutely agree, Monty. If you're a professional, the kit lens isn't a good lens. But if you're a beginner, the kit lens, 1855, and a zoom lens is going to be, you're going to take some good shots with those lenses. So basically, my bottom line advice is just be Nike. Just do it. Just buy a camera. Learn how to create images. Don't think too much about it. Any camera you buy at those price points, under $1,000 or even at $500, you're going to get a good beginner's camera, whether it's the Canon Rebel, the Nikon D3300, the Olympus M10, any one of those cameras from any one of the manufacturers is going to be a really, really good camera for you. As a beginner, I want to keep making that caveat. If you're a beginner, those are going to be the best cameras for you. As always, send me emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com if you have any questions about photography or things we talked about on tonight's show or things along those lines. Always happy to get emails from you guys. Get an email from Paul. When I reduce the shutter speed, it makes my images white. What can I do? Okay. So you reduce the shutter speed, so you're making the shutter slower. Now, this is where education is really important, Paul. This is where understanding what this kind of stuff is and how it affects your photography is really, really important. So shutter speed is a measure of how fast your aperture opens and closes, usually measured in tenths or hundredths or even thousandths of a second. So 1/10 of a second or 1/1000th of a second. You say you're slowing your shutter speed down. So what that means is the shutter is opening and closing slowly. Well, when the shutter opens, light comes in. You're controlling the amount of light. You're controlling how long light hits the sensor. If it's a slow shutter speed, the light's going to hit the sensor for a longer period of time. And that being the case, you have overexposed photos. You don't say what kind of camera you're using, but next time when you're looking through the lens and you do that half press and you see all those numbers along the bottom, most cameras will have a gradated scale, looks like a little ruler underneath. And they'll have a line that as you increase or decrease your shutter speed or your aperture, that line will move back and forth. I'd be willing to bet that your shutter speed was so slow that line was all the way over to the right-hand side, which meant that you were going to overexpose your photo. You want that line generally to be in the center or close to it. That'll mean that's, according to the camera, that's going to be a perfectly good exposure or perfectly exposed shot. So that's what's happening. You're slowing your shutter speed down, so the shutter is open for a longer period of time. More light comes in, and you're getting an overexposed shot. So if you're messing around with your shutter speed, increase your shutter speed. Make it faster. If you're shooting at 1 second, shoot at 1/10 of a second, 1/20th of a second. Let me know what you were shooting, and maybe I can help you get more specific when it comes to those kinds of things. Susan says, this was along the lines of what we were talking about earlier, should I buy a secondhand Nikon D3200 because I'm a beginner? Well, if you get a screamingly hot deal on that, then go ahead. But unless the person selling the secondhand gear to you is reputable, that you trust, I'd avoid buying secondhand as a beginner. I don't think beginners have the experience to know what to look for in a secondhand camera. It's not just, is it banged up or beat up or things like that. I prefer beginners. You're already going to buy a relatively inexpensive camera anyway. Spend a little bit extra money. Let's say you get the D3200 for $300. Well, for a couple $100 more, you can get a brand new under warranty D3300 or Canon Rebel. So I'd avoid secondhand, as I said earlier. I'd avoid secondhand if I'm a beginning shooter, not familiar with the cameras. Tim says, should I buy a DSLR camera from Amazon or Walmart? If you get from, you have to be careful with Amazon, Walmart, and Costco, because they'll often sell last year's models. You really got to look at the specs and the description of the camera to make sure you're getting what you believe you're getting. Do not buy, and I've said this before, on a, by the way, MacMan makes a great point. Used as a beginner? No. Factory refurbished from a reputable dealer like B&H? Sure. I agree with that 100%. Factory refurbs from people like B&H and Autorama and the manufacturers themselves, I would trust those as used gear. Make sure whoever you're buying it from, Tim, gives you a warranty, has a good return policy. Because there's this thing out there called the gray market. You've heard of the black market? Well, this is the gray market. And the gray market is kind of dodgy, and you don't want to get involved in the gray market. And sometimes Walmart and Costco sell these great price cameras, but it's a 2-year-old camera. Or you'll do a search on the web and you'll see this price of a camera. It's $1,000 cheaper than any other camera. And you'll go, oh my God. I had this happen to me when a couple of years ago, I was doing research on my Nikon D600. And it's a $2,000 camera. And yet there's one website, and one website only, it was selling it for $1,000. That's a great deal. But as you do more research, you find out this is a shady company, that they're either going to run off with your money and you'll never see a camera, or they're going to send you pieces of a camera, or you're going to get screwed. So if you know what you're doing, you can buy a DSLR camera from Amazon, for example. I bought my Nikon from Amazon because I knew already that I liked Nikon, that I was a Nikon guy. I knew where the buttons were going to be. I knew how the camera was going to feel. So I have no problem buying a camera online. But if you're a beginner, make sure you felt the camera first. Make sure you've taken some time to go somewhere and hold the camera and feel the camera and make sure you know what's going on with the camera itself. Our good friend Scott Randall at the Long Island Macintosh User Group sends me an email. Says, when you were talking about popular names, you mentioned the girl's name Maud. It reminded me of the great Canadian novelist Lucy Maud Montgomery. She wrote Anne of Green Gables. All you folks may be familiar with those children's books. I learned about her through a fictional Canadian TV show called The Murdoch Mysteries. One of the interesting things about the show is that these fictional characters interact with real people from history. In this episode, one of the constables, who is basically Detective Murdoch's sidekick on the show, is also a part-time writer. He meets Lucy Maud Montgomery and has a brief romantic interlude with her. At the end of the episode, they disclose that she was a real novelist back then. I looked her up, and sure enough, she's quite well known. Also, I saw pictures of her at different ages, and the one taken looks very much like the actress who played her on the show. Scott says, as far as why Apple wants to pursue the small percentage of Mac Pro users, I think it's for bragging rights. Bragging rights will help to sell other products. I can't say I know what the folks at Apple are thinking, but that's my 2 cents. As far as the modular statement, I think that may be user upgradable for pros who want it. I've discussed this with you before, but I also prefer something user upgradable. My main machine is a 2008 Mac Pro Tower, which I've tricked out with lots of stuff. It'll be fine for another 2 years, although I may replace it sooner. It would be really difficult for me to buy a new Mac. Even the lowest priced 27-inch iMac would cost me about $2,300 and about $60 to bring the RAM up to 16 gigabytes. The 21 inches is the same with upgrades and specs, only about $200 less, not really worth it. I really hope the future Mac Pro will be a success and sells like crazy. I probably won't be able to buy one, but there will be more of the 2012 Mac Pro Towers available as refurb or used. They'll be about half the price of new they are now. So folks in the same position as I am will be able to replace their present Macs at a more affordable price. As always, love the show. Scott in the Long Island Macintosh User Group. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. And I got a PayPal donation. Thanks very much from Michael Coolis. Michael sent me $20. It'll help pay for my speeding ticket. He says, just wanted to say thank you for what you do. I really enjoy the podcast. Mike Coolis, Richmond, Illinois. Mike, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. You know you can subscribe to Your Mac Life for $2, $5, $10, $15 a month. Go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com. Right there on the left-hand side, you can click on the options for subscription. You can also donate anytime you'd like, any amount you'd like. And that money is always appreciated. So thanks very much for that, Michael. As I said, I'm using it to pay off the speeding ticket. Don't forget, we are giving away, thanks to our Secret Santa, a set of Apple AirPods on the last show in April, and entries are free. So send me an email to go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com, right there at the very top in the contest entry form. You can click on that and fill out the form. It sends me an email, so make sure you have a valid email address in there because it'll send me an email. I'll drop your name into a virtual hat, and in the last show of the month, I will draw a name from the virtual hat, and someone's going to win the amount of money it costs to buy a set of Apple AirPods. For those of you who are subscribers, thank you very much. You are kind, gentle, lovely people. Don't worry about it. You already entered. Your monthly subscription gets you entry forms automatically into the virtual hat, so you're not going to do anything else. And for those of you who subscribe at a higher than $2 a month rate, you get extra entry forms. For every $2 you subscribe, you get one extra entry form. So that's an easy thing for you to do, is supports me, and you might get a chance of winning stuff. Speaking of that, if you'd like to take one of our photography classes, you can send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. We've already got Wayne is going to set his dad up. Wayne and his dad are going to take the class to learn to take better images. That class is for anybody who wants to learn to take better pictures, no matter what device they're using, whether it's an iPhone or a point and shoot or a DSLR, doesn't matter. I can show you how to take better pictures with the camera you already have. Those classes are on demand. All you got to do is send me an email and say, hey, I want to do it on Tuesday at 4 p.m. I'll do it at Tuesday at 4 p.m. for you. We'll work around your schedule and my schedule. And all you need to do is be able to use Google Hangouts. You can watch me do the video. I can hear you. Don't going to watch you, but I'll be able to hear you. You'll be able to watch me and ask questions as I do the presentation. And it's a one-on-one or two-on-one, however many people you want to get involved in this. So send me an email if you want more information about that to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. Folks, that's it for tonight. I want to say thanks, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com for joining me here, and to you guys for being tuned in, whether you're listening in live or tuned in via the archive. As always, I've been Shawn King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!